Murder Mystery 2 is over 11 years old, and somehow it still gets hundreds of thousands of players. That makes absolutely no sense. Most Roblox games struggle to stay popular for a few years. MM2 has survived different Roblox eras, completely different trends, and probably about a million games trying to copy it. So how is this game still this big? At first, the answer seems obvious. Murder Mystery 2 is just really simple. Every round, one person is the murderer, one is the sheriff, and everyone else is innocent. The murderer tries to kill everyone. The sheriff tries to stop them. And the innocents mostly run around pretending they definitely aren't following the sheriff for the gun. That's basically the entire game. And somehow, that's part of the reason it works. You don't need a tutorial. You don't need to grind for 3 hours before the game becomes fun. You can join a server, understand what's happening almost instantly, and every round gives you a completely different situation. But being simple isn't enough. There are loads of simple Roblox games. Most of them aren't still massive after more than a decade. So MM2 had to have something else. And I think one of the biggest reasons is that the actual game isn't really about the murderer. It's about the players. Think about it. The map doesn't change that much. The weapons don't completely change how the game works, but the people do. One round, the murderer might be terrible and somehow miss someone standing directly in front of them. The next round, you've got someone wiping out the entire server before anyone even knows who the murderer is. And because nobody knows who they can trust, even doing absolutely nothing can become suspicious. Someone follows you for 5 seconds? Murderer. Someone stands still? Definitely murderer. Someone exists? Probably murderer. That makes every round feel different without the game actually needing hundreds of different mechanics. And then MM2 added something that became almost as important as the game itself: trading. MM2 has hundreds of collectible knives and guns, and over time getting rare weapons became a huge part of the community. For some players, the murder mystery part almost becomes the background. They want godlies. And once a game has its own trading economy, suddenly there's another reason to keep logging in. You aren't just playing rounds anymore. You're collecting stuff. You're trading. You're trying to get that one weapon you've wanted for months. And this probably helped MM2 way more than it seems, because the actual gameplay could stay simple while the collection side kept giving people something to chase. But even that should eventually get old. And there were definitely times where MM2 felt like it wasn't changing much. Updates could be pretty spread out, and compared to newer Roblox games, MM2 doesn't constantly throw massive new systems at you. You'd think players would eventually get bored and move on. But instead, something weird happened. The simplicity became an advantage. A lot of newer Roblox games have daily quests, pets, upgrades, battle passes, 10 different currencies, and about 17 buttons covering the screen. MM2 doesn't really need any of that. You join, a round starts, someone has a knife, good luck. That also makes it really easy to come back to. You could stop playing MM2 for 2 years, join again, and you'd still know exactly what you're doing. And that's really important for an old game. MM2 also keeps itself alive with seasonal updates. Halloween and Christmas especially have become a big part of the game, usually bringing new weapons, events, and things to collect. The Christmas 2025 update was still being promoted by Nikilis himself, more than a decade after the game originally released. But there's one part of MM2's popularity that's a lot less good: bots. MM2 has had a pretty serious bot problem. Servers have been filled with bot accounts advertising sketchy websites, usually promising cheap godlies or other MM2 items. Some of these are basically trying to push players towards black market sites or scams. And when a game has this many bots, it creates an obvious question. How many of those huge player numbers are actually real people? Roblox has worked on fighting bots and hackers, and there were reports in 2025 of action being taken against them, but bot accounts later started appearing again in MM2 servers. So yes, botting probably makes MM2's numbers look better than they really are. But here's the thing, even if you removed every bot tomorrow, that still wouldn't explain away the game. MM2 has billions of visits, millions of favorites, and after more than 11 years, it's still sitting near the top of Roblox's player charts. Clearly, actual people are still playing it. A lot of actual people. And I think that's because MM2 accidentally created one of the best types of Roblox game for lasting forever. It's simple enough that anyone can understand it. Random enough that rounds don't feel exactly the same. Social enough that other players basically create the entertainment. And then trading gives people a reason to stick around even when they've played hundreds of rounds. MM2 doesn't need some giant storyline. It doesn't need a new map every week. It doesn't even need to completely reinvent itself. The players basically do half the work for it. And that's probably why Murder Mystery 2 is still alive. Not because it's constantly changing, but because the main idea never really stopped working. Which is kind of ridiculous when you remember this game came out before a huge amount of its current players were even on Roblox. At this point, I don't think MM2 is just an old Roblox game anymore. It's basically part of Roblox. Like and subscribe for a shout out next video. Comment down below what you thought of this, and I'll see you next video.